The year is 1890, and London breathes beneath a thick blanket of fog. Gaslights cast a sickly yellow glow on cobblestone streets, slick with a perpetual dampness. Carriages rattle, their horses' hooves echoing in the narrow alleyways, a symphony of urban hustle barely masking an undercurrent of unease. Whispers travel on the wind, tales of strange happenings, of shadows moving where they shouldn't, of a disquiet that settles deep in the bones. Something unnatural is stirring in the heart of the empire, an ancient evil taking root in the modern world. It arrives not with fanfare, but with a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a darkening of the already gloomy skies, a chill that penetrates even the warmest homes. The city, for all its grandeur, feels vulnerable, ripe for a darkness it cannot comprehend. This is London on the cusp of a nightmare. If you enjoy tales of mystery, suspense, and the supernatural, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more chilling stories. Jonathan Harker was a young solicitor, ambitious and eager to prove himself. He saw London as a chessboard, each deal a carefully calculated move towards success. When the opportunity arose to handle the affairs of a foreign nobleman, a Count Dracula from Transylvania, purchasing property in London, Jonathan seized it with both hands. It was a significant commission, one that could elevate his career and establish him as a rising star in the legal profession. He envisioned a future paved with prosperity and recognition, fueled by this singular transaction. The prospect of dealing with a count, a man of ancient lineage and untold wealth, filled him with a heady mix of excitement and anticipation. He was ready to meet this challenge head-on, unaware of the darkness that awaited him. His journey began with a train ride eastward, the landscape slowly transforming from the bustling cityscape to rolling green hills, and eventually, to the stark, imposing mountains of Transylvania. The air grew colder, the sky perpetually overcast, and a sense of isolation settled upon him as he ventured deeper into the wilderness. Small villages dotted the countryside, their inhabitants casting furtive glances at the passing train, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and fear. The further he traveled, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, the shadows lengthening and the silence growing more profound. He felt increasingly cut off from the familiar comforts of London, adrift in a land steeped in ancient legends and forgotten lore. The anticipation he once felt began to morph into a gnawing unease, a premonition of something sinister lurking just beyond the horizon. Finally, he arrived at the imposing castle, a Gothic structure perched precariously on a craggy peak. The sheer scale of it was breathtaking, yet it radiated a palpable sense of decay and neglect. As the heavy wooden doors creaked open, he was greeted by Count Dracula himself. The Count was a tall, gaunt figure with a pale complexion and piercing, hypnotic eyes. His presence was both captivating and unnerving. Initially, he was the perfect host, courteous and refined, engaging Jonathan in intellectual conversation and attending to his every need. But beneath the surface, Jonathan sensed a chilling reserve, a hidden power that made him profoundly uncomfortable. He attributed it to the Count's foreign manners and the strangeness of his surroundings, dismissing his growing unease as mere fatigue. Still, a primal instinct screamed at him to be wary. Dracula possessed an almost obsessive interest in the details of his new London property, Carfax Abbey, an old, crumbling estate located just outside the city. He peppered Jonathan with questions about its location, its proximity to populated areas, and the surrounding landscape. He seemed particularly interested in the local cemeteries and the ancient history of the region. His inquiries were meticulous and unsettling, revealing a deep understanding of the area despite never having set foot there. Jonathan found himself increasingly disturbed by the Count's fascination with the macabre, but he chalked it up to the eccentricities of a wealthy nobleman with peculiar tastes. He focused on the legal aspects of the transaction, eager to complete his work and return to the familiar safety of London. As the time came for Jonathan's departure, a wave of dread washed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was leaving something precious behind, or worse, that he was being released from a carefully constructed prison. As his carriage wound down the mountain pass, he glanced back at the castle. In one of the highest windows, he saw a figure standing motionless, silhouetted against the pale moonlight. It was Count Dracula, his gaze fixed upon the departing carriage. But as Jonathan stared, the figure seemed to transform, to elongate, to shift into something impossibly tall and bat-like. He blinked, and the vision was gone, leaving him shaken and Deeply disturbed, he knew, with chilling certainty, that he was carrying something far more dangerous than legal documents back to London. Dracula arrived in London, not with a fanfare, but with the silent, ominous grace of a predator entering its hunting ground. The Demeter, the ship that carried him, limped into port during a ferocious storm. Whispers of a ghost ship, its crew vanished or driven mad, circulated quickly. Newspapers reported strange occurrences coinciding with the ship's arrival. Unnatural fog blanketing the city, a sudden spike in animal deaths, and unsettling reports of a large dog seen bounding through the darkened streets near the docks. All this while, the dilapidated Carfax Abbey, long abandoned and shrouded in local legends of dark deeds, stood silently awaiting its new master. Its crumbling walls and overgrown grounds seemed to exhale an aura of decay and secrets, a perfect lair for something that thrived in shadow. Meanwhile, a shadow of a different kind was falling upon Mina Murray. She was deeply concerned for her dearest friend, Lucy Westenra. Lucy, vibrant and full of life just weeks before, was now inexplicably fading. Her once rosy cheeks were now pale, her bright eyes dulled with a strange, unnerving weariness. She suffered from bouts of extreme fatigue, nightmares plagued her sleep, and she became increasingly withdrawn. Mina devoted herself to Lucy's care, reading to her, keeping her company, desperately trying to lift her spirits. But nothing seemed to help. Lucy's condition worsened day by day, defying all logical explanation, casting a pall of despair over Mina's usually optimistic nature. Dr. John Seward, a brilliant young psychiatrist, found himself increasingly baffled. He ran a private asylum not far from Carfax Abbey, and his scientific mind struggled to reconcile Lucy's symptoms with any known illness. He meticulously documented her case in his journal, noting the increasingly bizarre developments. He observed a strange pallor, an almost translucent quality to her skin, and most disturbingly, two small, puncture-like marks on her neck. He dismissed them initially as insect bites, but a nagging feeling of unease persisted. He tried every treatment he knew, every therapy available, but Lucy only grew weaker, the mystery of her ailment deepening with each passing day. Desperate for answers, Dr. Seward reached out to his former mentor, Professor Abraham van Helsing, a Dutch physician renowned for his vast knowledge of obscure diseases and ancient folklore. Van Helsing possessed a sharp intellect, an open mind, and a willingness to consider possibilities that most scientists dismissed as superstition. He arrived in London with a sense of urgency, his experienced eyes immediately recognizing something deeply amiss. After a thorough examination of Lucy, a look of grim understanding settled upon his face. He muttered about ancient evils and forces beyond the realm of human comprehension, hinting at a diagnosis too terrifying to utter aloud. Van Helsing, recognizing the gravity of the situation, initiated a series of blood transfusions, hoping to revitalize Lucy and combat the unknown force that was draining her life. Jonathan Harker, recovered from his unsettling experiences abroad, volunteered to be a donor, eager to help Mina's friend. Arthur Holmwood, Lucy's fiancé, also willingly offered his blood. The transfusions provided temporary relief, a brief respite from the encroaching darkness, but the underlying cause remained unchecked. Lucy's condition continued its inexorable decline, a horrifying testament to the unseen enemy that preyed upon her. Armed with his knowledge of ancient lore, Van Helsing began to implement protective measures. He placed garlic flowers around Lucy's room, their pungent aroma filling the air. He hung crucifixes above her bed and windows, symbols of faith meant to ward off evil. One night, as they kept vigil, a chilling presence filled the room. The air grew cold, a palpable sense of dread suffocated them. They saw shadows flicker at the edge of their vision, heard whispers carried on the wind, felt an unseen force pressing in upon them. They knew, with chilling certainty, that they were in the presence of something ancient and malevolent, something that defied the laws of nature. A predator lurking just beyond the veil of the visible world, its crimson gaze fixed upon its helpless victim. Lucy, despite their desperate attempts, was succumbing. The vibrant, laughing woman they knew was fading, replaced by something else. It wasn't just illness, it was a corruption, a perversion of life itself. Her skin, once rosy, now held a disturbing, almost luminous pallor. Her breathing was shallow, ragged, each gasp a struggle. The marks on her neck, once faint and easily dismissed, were now pronounced, angry crimson welts that seemed to throb with a life of their own. The air around her crackled with a chilling unnatural energy, a silent scream that only Van Helsing seemed fully to comprehend. And then, the inevitable. The moment Lucy crossed the threshold, the transformation complete. She was no longer Lucy Westenra. Her eyes snapped open, no longer soft and gentle, but burning with a malevolent crimson fire. Her teeth elongated into sharp, predatory points. A low, guttural growl escaped her lips, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened men present. She rose from her bed with unnatural grace, her movements fluid and predatory, a stark contrast to the frail, weakened woman she had been moments before. The room, once a sanctuary of healing, became a prison, its occupants trapped in the presence of something truly terrifying. The creature that was once Lucy Westenra had become a vampire, a child of the night, and a harbinger of unimaginable horror. The realization that Lucy was truly lost galvanized the remaining members of their group. Grief warred with grim determination. Van Helsing, Seward, Harker, and even the stoic Arthur Holmwood, Lucy's heartbroken fiancé, understood what had to be done. They were no longer merely trying to save a life, they were fighting to protect the world. The hunt began, fueled by a burning righteous fury and a profound understanding of the evil they faced. They knew Dracula was responsible for Lucy's fate, and they would not rest until he was destroyed. The stakes were higher than ever before, and the fate of London, perhaps even the world, hung in the balance. Their initial investigation led them to Carfax Abbey, the dilapidated and ominous property Dracula had purchased. The place reeked of decay and something else, something ancient and foul that seemed to cling to the very stones. Within its crumbling walls, they discovered a network of hidden passages and underground chambers, a labyrinth of darkness that mirrored the twisted depths of Dracula's soul. They found evidence of his activities, his preparations, his insidious plans to spread his unholy influence throughout London. They found coffins, filled with earth from his native Transylvania, the source of his strength. It was here that they truly understood the scope of the threat they faced. Dracula was not merely a monster. He was a plague, a disease that threatened to consume everything in its path. They discovered journals, maps, and cryptic notes that revealed Dracula's intentions to corrupt and dominate, to create an army of the undead and plunge the world into eternal darkness. The urgency of their mission became starkly clear. They had to stop him, not just for Lucy, but for everyone. The information gleaned from Carfax Abbey revealed Dracula's plan to flee back to Transylvania, to regroup and rebuild his power. He sensed the danger, felt the relentless pursuit closing in around him. The hunt became a desperate chase, a race against time to prevent Dracula from escaping and unleashing his evil upon the world once more. The team pursued him relentlessly, across land and sea, their determination unwavering. They tracked him by ship, following the telltale signs of his passage, the unnatural storms that seemed to accompany his presence, the whispers of fear that rippled through the communities he touched. The journey was fraught with peril, the sea a treacherous ally, the weather a constant threat. But they pressed on, fueled by their unwavering commitment to destroy Dracula and end his reign of terror. The tension was palpable, each passing moment bringing them closer to a final, inevitable confrontation. They knew that Dracula would not go down without a fight, and they prepared themselves for the ultimate battle, a battle for the soul of humanity.